All right, I'm going to show you how to get started on our grid project. I already did step one, which was to take your black and white picture, and I trimmed it for you on the paper cutter. So now you're going to take your 9 by 12 white paper, and you're going to set that black and white picture down, and you want to try to center it so there's equal space here on either side, and then equal space on the bottom portion here, and then on the top portion. Okay, once you have that, you're going to take your pencil and you're going to mark the corners. So I'm just making like a little L shape mark in the corners. All right, and then what I would do in the bottom right-hand corner, just put a little X so that you know that that's kind of the bottom right-hand corner. Then I can take this off, and then I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to line up those markings that I made. And if you don't have a ruler at home, I put one in your little packet. And so all I'm doing here is creating a border. So I'm lining up these lines, taking my pencil, and creating a border. I'm going to rotate it. Okay. Then on your black and white photo, we're going to measure out 1 inch by 1 inch squares. So as you look at this ruler, the inches are over on this side. They're the bigger ones here, just so you know. Most rulers will say inches on it. And we're going to measure that off 1 inch by 1 inch squares. So what I'm going to do is line up my ruler, mark at the 1 inch, mark at the, so every inch I'm making a little kind of tally mark with my pencil. Okay. Then at the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing along the bottom. And the reason is we're going to line up those marks that we just made to make straight lines for our grid. So now I can take my ruler and line those two markings up and create a line. Then I'm going to do the same thing All right, I'm having trouble seeing that line, so there we go. I'm going to remark it. I did it in a spot where it was kind of a dark area. There we go. So I've got all my vertical lines. Now I'm going to do my horizontal lines. So I'm going to start at the top of the picture here and put my ruler down. And I'm going to do the same thing I just did. Measure 1 inch, 1 inch, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Take my ruler, line up those markings, and draw my horizontal lines. All right, and I want to show you on the bottom of this, it's not a complete 1 inch square, which is fine, but I want you to be aware of that. And the same with on the right-hand side right here. It's not a complete 1 inch square. So when I go to my piece of paper here, I want to make sure that I am measuring it correctly so that it's the same on both. So I'm going to start here at the top, do the same thing. I'm going to mark off every 1 inch. I'm just doing a really light mark. On the white 9x12 paper, it's really important to do a really light mark, because if you do this too dark and carve into the paper, your whole drawing is going to be ruined. So it's super important that these lines on the white paper are super light, like as light as you can make them. So as you line up your ruler, I strongly suggest holding your pencil up high like this. Then you can pull along and you can hardly put any pencil pressure on. You guys might not even be able to see the lines because I want to do them that light. Because eventually we're going to erase these lines, and if you press so hard that you're carving into the paper, the lines won't erase. So really, really light on the lines on the white paper. It's so important. And then after I do these horizontal lines, we'll work on the vertical lines. And like I said, it's important so remember, this was the bottom where the X was, and remember the bottom of my paper here wasn't a full inch square, so that's correct. On the right-hand side of this picture is not a full inch square, so I need to make sure that I measure that off the same way. So now I'm going to mark every 1 inch. And I'm going to do the same on the bottom. And then really lightly again, hold your pencil up high, pull, and create that line. Okay, so these lines are really light. Like I said, I didn't carve into the paper. They're going to be easily to erase. Now you notice my outside lines are a lot darker because that is fine because it is kind of creating your border. So as you look at these kind of side by side, these are the same squares. Like this square right here lines up with the square over here. So that's your first step, is make your border, create 1 inch by 1 inch squares on your black and white picture, and then the same 1 inch by 1 inch squares on your paper.